Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we're here to recap The Quad Season 1, Episode 3, titled Invisible Man. On tonight's episode, Jason gets an ultimatum, Eva gets served, Sydney shows that she's not about the domestic life, Cedric is released from jail, and Noni can't find her balance. It's the first game of the season, and GAMU is about to take the field not only in football, but also with their world-renowned band. So Eva is on her grind, trying to make sure the school is ready and that they will receive all the recognition that they can and need to get back on track. And so at band practice, Noni is learning that performing in the band is a far cry from being a very good player on the saxophone. And the drum major, who hates her, isn't going to give her any slack or make it easy for her. And so he basically tells Noni to get her 2 left feet right because she was like tripping and falling all over the place. So Noni is called to the band director's office after it was reported back to him that she was messing up and couldn't get the routine straight. And so he tells her to show him the move. And of course, she starts stumbling again, just can't get that turn and that dip right. And so he gives her a box to stand on and tells her that she needs to find her balance. And so even on the box, she couldn't get it straight, and she falls off one time, and she says that it's virtually impossible to do the move. And so he tells her that he feels that he made a mistake with her and that he would never boost up or believe in somebody who would utter the word impossible. And so Noni, she's trying to get back up there and do it again, but every time she fails. And so he tells her to leave, and as she's walking out, I'm screaming in my head, take the box, take the box, take the box. But then when she gets to the door, he calls out to her. When she turns around, he tells her, take the box. And I'm thinking, come on, Noni, now you really wanted this, so girl, you got to give it all that you have. Back at the dorm, Noni is practicing nonstop, and she has the box, and she's out in the hallway, she's practicing, and once again, she just cannot get it. And so the dorm, the people that live in the dorm with her, they're getting upset. They're saying that they're tired. And so one of the guys comes down, and he looks like a football player, and I was trying to figure out why he was in the dorm with her. And then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it's a dorm for the band members. But anyway, he comes down and he's telling her that if she doesn't knock it off within the next 15 minutes, he's going to call the RA and get her put out. And then a female student comes downstairs, and she's pissed, to the highest level of pistivity at this point. And she's telling Noni that, it was bad enough that they closed one of the male dorms down and the guys had to move into their building. But now, she's keeping her up and can't study and can't get any rest because Noni's making all this noise. So she grabs the box and tosses it out the door and tells Noni that if she wants to practice, she needs to go outside and practice. And so Noni is upset at first, but then she realizes that she's got to get the step down if she's going to remain first chair. So she goes outside and she practices all night trying to get that step right. So a student journalist comes to interview Coach Hartwig and to try and find out who he's going to start as quarterback in the first game, whether it be Bojan, the white guy, or if it'll be the current quarterback. I think his name is Terrence. But Coach Hartwig isn't trying to give up the information, and so the reporter leaves, and then Eva comes in, but she has just as little success in getting the information out of him as the reporter did. And so she lets Coach Hartwig know that she was able to get television coverage, but she needs to see Bojan on the field as the starting quarterback. But Coach Hartwood lets her know that, he doesn't care about the TV coverage. He's going to play the best guy and let the game unfold. And if, something happens with whoever he chooses, then he'll let the other person step up, but he's not giving the name of who he has chosen. So Eva is wearing this badass color block dress. And I noticed that most of her outfits are in the color scheme of the college, which is, I think, burgundy, white, black, and gold maybe, but it seems like those are always her color combinations. So she returns to her office, and Lila, the assistant district attorney, is there, and she's come to let Eva know that they have dropped the charges against Cedric because they didn't have enough evidence. And so while she's there, they get into this discussion about, how young black males are treated by law enforcement, and that he never should have been arrested in the first place. And then she gets a text, and it's Jason on the phone. And so she gets up and she walks over to her desk. And so you can tell that Lila is a little upset that Eva didn't even, say thank you for, coming to let me know that Cedric was being released. And then she was kind of pissed off because she felt that Lila wasn't valuing her time by going, off to text and do whatever she was doing with that telephone. So then as she was getting ready to leave, Eva did apologize and thank her for coming to share the information. But I'm thinking, Eva, the last thing you want to do is make an enemy of the assistant district attorney, because she went out of her way to help you in the first place. So I don't know why you tripping. Over at the dorms, Bojan's father shows up unannounced, and he's being like a really racist jerk. He refuses to shake the hand of Bojan's roommate. So he lets Bojan know that he's been talking to people, since the game is going to be televised. So he needs him to start and, play his best game. And so then Bojan says that, he doesn't care about the television coverage, that he really likes being there and he's making friends. But his father is like, his only goal is to get him out of colored youth. So you can tell that he is just like cringing at the thought that his little white son goes to this predominantly black college. So back at her office, Mr. Briggs, you remember, is Jason from the game. He owns all the strip clubs and everything. So he's there to do a presentation to bid on their food services at the college, because I guess the company that was doing the food service may have left, or maybe it's just time for their contract to be up. So he's brought in all this food and he's laid out a spread for Eva. And so he also wants to talk to her about two of his employees wanting to get into the School of Business. And so then Eva, she kind of turns her nose up and she's like, well, what do you mean two of your employees? And then she says, don't you mean two strippers? And then he says, well, two dancers, but that's besides the point. They want to go to college. I'm willing to pay their tuition if you will let them in. So like I say, Eva's kind of turning her nose up and acting like she doesn't want these girls coming to the college. But then Mr. Briggs reminds her that it was him that got her out of her financial bind, where she had to repay the money that she had paid to get the water turned back on at the university. So Cedric is released from prison and his mom is there to greet him. And mom goes from, she goes from like being a strong black woman to being like a Sour Patch Kid. I can never read her emotions. And so Cedric, he's ready to go back to Chicago, but his mom tells him that, he can't give up that easy and he's not leaving school. He's not going to be another statistic. And so I wonder what their age difference is supposed to be on the show, because it may explain, her wide range of emotions and responses to the things that's going on. So I'm thinking like maybe she was a teen mom and she really didn't get an opportunity to grow up and mature. So she's working really hard to be a good mom and make sure that her son is a success in life. But then on the other hand, she may not be mature enough to like really think things through and make sound decisions, because she is just like all over the place. So one of the things that Cedric says is that he wants to get back home so that he can go to Chantel's funeral, but then the mom lets him know that the funeral was the day before, and she apologizes. I'm just thinking like, first of all, he didn't get to mourn the death of Chantel properly because they came and arrested him and charged him with her murder. And then he sat in jail, so he didn't get to, deal with it that way. And now he can't even go to the funeral because they had the funeral before he was released from jail. So Cedric and his mom, they return to his dorm room, and Bryce is there and he's preparing to go meet his dad. And he's surprised but happy that Cedric is out, and he was telling him that it was his plans to come visit him later in the day. So Bryce is under the opinion that his dad has gotten Cedric out of jail, and so he's like really excited, and he invites Cedric and his mom to go with him to meet his dad. But the mom knows the truth that the dad didn't help, and then Cedric, he didn't want to say anything, to bust Bryce's bubble, so he just says no thanks, he'll catch them later. Then we have a scene with Eva, and she goes out to the football stadium to check on the cleanup process and realizes that Sydney is not there helping. And remember, she was assigned to work on the school beautification committee, after getting in trouble for getting drunk. But, and when the show came on and they had given her, the vest that she was supposed to wear in her room, Sydney went and dumped the vest in the garbage and dropped the broom, and she sashayed off. And the guy had even made a comment about the fact that she was out there, with her little short mini dress on and high heels. So he knew that she wasn't going to do much work. Not sure he knew that she was the daughter of the school president or not, but he kind of like rolled his eyes at her and let her leave. So while Eva is asking the guy who was over the beautification project, if he had seen Sydney, her phone rings and she realizes that it's Jason. And she sends the calls to voicemail. So at band practice, and after all her hard work, Noni still can't get the dance move down pat, and she's demoted from first chair back to fourth chair. And as she is sent back to fourth chair, the band director experiences some kind of medical emergency or something. It's like he bent over and kind of reached for his midsection. So I'm thinking he has something that's going to come up later on in the show, and it probably would serve him right because he's so mean to everybody. So Eva finally goes to visit Jason to break things off, but he pledges his love for her and lets her know that, his love is true, and unlike her husband, he will always be there for her. And Eva says that, she's been married for 18 years and she plans to fight for her marriage. But Jason reminds her that she's always been very wishy-washy. She tells him she doesn't want him. But when she wants to feel him inside of her, then she comes running back to him. Or either when things go wrong between her and Derek, then, he's like the fall to guy. But he says that, if it's over and she wants it to be over, then he'll accept it and let her go. So later, as Eva is leaving her house to go to the football game, she is served divorce papers. And can you guys explain to me, because I notice I see this on television all the time, but I've never seen it actually happen in real life. But is that like the new thing where the process servers, they call you your name, and when you say, yes, this is her or him, they hand you the papers and then quickly take a picture of you and say you've been served? I see it a lot on TV, just never seen it in person or heard anybody say that it happened to them. So you guys let me know if that's what's really going down in some of these cities. So on her way to the game, Eva tries calling Derek several times, but she keeps getting his voicemail. So she finally decides to leave him a message where she calls him a piece of shit coward and a sorry lawyer and vows to leave him broke. And so if you guys remember in the episode where he came and confronted her about taking $150,000 out, we found out that she comes from a rich family and that he really didn't bring much to the marriage. So Eva gets out of her car and she spots Sydney, and she confronts her about drinking again and tells her, that she would be sending her back to live with her dad because she's sick of the both of them. And then Sydney says that that's fine because they're sick of her as well. And so then Eva says, don't make me lay hands on you, Sydney. And then Sydney comes back and said, oh, I'm sure you won't do that in public. So I guess Eva may have been whooping up on Sydney behind closed doors. So before the game, everybody's in the parking lot and they're tailgating, and we have a scene where Bryce is talking to his, I think it was one of his older brothers, and the brother is basically trying to tell him that the dad isn't all that he thinks he is, and that he probably didn't help Cedric get out of jail. But Bryce, he loves his dad, idolizes him, and thinks his dad can't do any wrong. But the brother is like low-key telling him, watch dad, watch out for him, listen to what he says. He's not the man that you think he is. Coach Hardwick decides to start Terrence as quarterback and, to sit Bojan out. But he tells Bojan to stay ready just in case, because he could be called in at any moment. And this doesn't really sit well with Bojan's dad. He's up in the stands, pouting because his son isn't playing in the game. Then we move over to Cedric, and he's out in the field with like a GPS or a picture or something on his phone, and he's trying to find where Chantel's body was found. And so when he finally gets there, he kneels down and he's like talking to her and kind of reminiscing over their time together before she was murdered. And he puts some flowers and teddy bears, on the spot, leaving a memorial. And so he breaks down crying, and I'm thinking finally he gets the opportunity to mourn, not the way that he wanted to, but it was something to help him kind of deal with what was going on and start the closure process. So GAMU is behind 14-7 with 13 seconds left in the game. And so Coach Hardwick asks both quarterbacks, Bojan and Terrence, what would they do? What play would they run? And so he goes with Bojan and the play that he suggests, so that as they're running out as Bojan goes to run out on the field, his dad is up in the stands, he's all excited, but then all of a sudden we see Terrence go out on the field too. So I can't remember if Terrence was playing like a wide receiver or... yeah, I'm thinking probably was a wide receiver. So the play starts and Bojan is sacked, but then he fumbles the ball and Terrence recovers the ball. And then because Bojan got back up on his feet and was able to tackle one of the opponents, Terrence was able to run the ball into the end zone for the scoring and game-winning touchdown. So after the game, they're in the tunnel, heading back to the locker room, and the team is like celebrating. And Bojan is off to the side waiting for his dad, and he's all excited and everything. And so when the dad, walks up, he's asking him like, did you see it? Did you see it? But the dad is just like, are you crazy? They put you in the last few seconds of the game. You totally embarrassed me because I had people watching, because you were going to be on television and you didn't even get to play. So then as Bojan is telling him, but, I helped win the game by tackling the guy. And then the dad kind of like, maybe abusive, because then he like slammed him into the wall and told him that he was being disrespectful and don't he ever talk to him in that manner again. So Bojan is like on the verge of tears because not only is he like terrified of his dad, but he also seemed to be embarrassed that his dad was doing him like that, and he didn't know if anybody had witnessed it because they were like on the side of a Coke machine, or there was something there that was like blocking the view from the other guys. So I'm not sure if anybody witnessed how his dad was treating him. So after the game, they had like a reception, maybe for the donors or something. I couldn't tell. They were like under a tent or something after the game. And so Mr. Briggs is there, and he has the two girls that he wanted Eva to put into the School of Business. And so he introduces them to her. But, once again, she's like turning her nose up and being kind of standoffish towards him. And I'm thinking, girl, this man has all the money, and he seems to be the only donor that really cares. So you might want to check your attitude and be a little nicer to him. So the show ends with Noni still practicing on that box, because she wants to get her spot back. And then Eva decides to go over to Jason's for some odd reason. But like he says, that whenever she wants to feel his, up in her, she comes running. And that's exactly what she did, I guess, feeling overwhelmed about the divorce and about Sydney showing out on her, that she just needed a release. But I'm thinking that Coach Hardwick seems to have eyes for Eva and also Mr. Briggs. So why don't she find somebody her own age that's not going to cause a scandal and cause her to lose her job once again? Because I think this is how she got fired from the other job, for sleeping with this boy. So as soon as he opens the door, Eva is like all over him, and they fall all back on the sofa. And I'm sitting there like, okay, did they just leave the door open for anybody to walk up and see them on the sofa about to get busy? And then as the camera panned around, and the camera was like on the other side of the window, coming into the room. And I'm thinking, okay, was that supposed to give us the illusion that there was somebody at that window looking in at them? So next week should be a good episode, because it looks like Sydney has her eyes set on Mr. Jason. So I don't know if she knows that her mom is having an affair with him or what's going on, but look like she's going to get with Jason on the next episode. Well, that's it for me. You can leave your comments below, rate the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can also check out my other recaps at youtube.com, A View from Tracy's Point. So until next time, have a wonderful weekend, and I will check with you guys later. Bye-bye.